Hi everyone, in this video I'm going to go over color identities in the Digimon card game. When I was starting out, I remember this information being weirdly hard to find, so I wanted to make this video as a reference for new players or people interested in the game. There are 6 main colors in Digimon: red, blue, green, yellow, purple, and black. There is a 7th color, white, but it's a special case that I'll talk more about when we get there. Each color in Digimon has a collection of mechanics common to that color, otherwise known as their color identity. There is, of course, some crossover, as well as mechanics that are frequently found in all colors, like Security +1 and Blocker, but for the most part, different colors are drawing from different pools of mechanics. Now, I want to make this clear right off the bat. Digimon is not a color-based game. It's an archetype-based game. Each deck in Digimon represents a certain archetype, which is a fancy way of saying a family of cards that are designed to work well together. These cards are what ultimately will define the deck because each archetype is unique. For example, Alphamon and D-Brigade are both black decks, but are nothing alike because they belong to different archetypes. I hope that makes sense, and sorry for the mini tangent, but I don't want anyone getting the wrong idea about color's role in Digimon. So what does color actually do if it's not the main defining trait of a deck? First and foremost, color controls compatibility between cards. You can't just slap 4 colors together in one deck and expect it to work. Most Digimon cards can only evolve from their own color, making outside colors rather unwelcome. Tamers are a little bit easier to splash, especially if you have off-color option cards that you want to include, but doing so usually comes with a hit to consistency. The second important function of color is its impact on matchups. Each color has a different type of removal, the effectiveness of which can range from devastating to virtually useless depending on the opponent's deck. This also includes which option cards a deck can use, which are a common way to deal with bad matchups. To be clear, archetypes also factor into compatibility in matchups, but there are way too many archetypes in the game to cover them all. So let's get into it. For each color, I'll explain the types of Digimon usually found in that color, the mechanics that are part of the color identity, the removal type and how they work, and finally I'll finish up with some examples of decks that exemplify that color identity. Red contains primarily dragons and dragonkin, as well as other fire elemental Digimon. Perhaps most importantly, it's also the home to the anime protagonists and their partner Digimon. The exception to this is Davis and Vmon, who live in blue, but every other main protagonist and their partner line is in red. Red is a very offensive color. It uses mechanics like Security +1, plus DP, Piercing, Blitz, and the ability to ignore option cards and Security to bulldoze through opposing defenses. Red has 2 ways to remove the opponent's Digimon. The first is DP-based deletion, which allows the deletion of a Digimon with a certain amount of DP or less. This is a versatile effect because it can sometimes hit Digimon at multiple levels. For example, 6000 DP hits strong level 4s and weak level 5s. On the other hand, this removal type struggles to hit high DP Digimon, especially when their DP can be raised even further with effects. The second type of removal is attacking into unsuspended Digimon. This mechanic is being made into the raid keyword in BT11, but raid requires that you attack the unsuspended Digimon with the highest DP. Still a very strong and threatening ability, but not as flexible as the unkeyworded version. Examples of red decks are War Greymon X and Gallantmon X. War Greymon uses a bunch of Security +1 and plus DP effects to wipe out all 5 security cards with one attack. On top of that, it can ignore any option cards in security, making it a very threatening strategy. Gallantmon isn't quite as monstrous, but it has plenty of removal that gives it great board control, especially against low DP Digimon. It can directly trash security cards, giving it a bit of protection since those cards won't activate, but it's not quite as bulletproof as War Greymon's protection. Blue is home to beasts, sea animals, and various water and ice elemental Digimon. It's also home to the anime deuteragonists. The exception this time is Ken, who lives in green. Additionally, Tamers has no character representing blue, but Frontier makes up for it by having 2 blue reps, Koji and Tommy. Blue is probably the most well-rounded color in the game, having many solid options for both offense and defense. Unsuspension and jamming will rip through security, while evade helps survive deletion. Blue is also known for having exceptional draw power, helping greatly with consistency. Blue has multiple removal types: level-based bounce, strip, and stun. Level-based bounce returns a Digimon of a certain level to its owner's hand. Strip trashes sources from a Digimon, while stun prevents a Digimon from attacking or blocking for a turn. Level-based bounce is usually cheaper than other removal effects, but the trade-off is that it's less permanent. Sometimes it can even backfire if you bounce a Digimon with a strong on-play or when digivolving effect. Strip is great, especially if you can deny a particularly strong inherited effect. Many blue cards also punish the opponent for having Digimon with no sources, adding a secondary benefit beyond just neutering a stack. Stun is one of the best effects in the game because it turns off both offense and defense, effectively removing a Digimon from the battlefield for a turn. Some blue decks to look at are Metal Garurumon X and Blue Flare. Metal Garurumon can attack and unsuspend many times in one turn, resulting in a clean sweep of the opponent's security if everything goes well. It will get blown up by option cards, but has great draw power, which means great consistency. Blue Flare threatens the board with low-level Digimon and several brutal stun effects. Decks that like having multiple Digimon in play need to be very careful or they may end up getting stunned into oblivion. Yellow is the domain of angels and holy beasts. Though not as rigid in its connection to the anime as red and blue, many fan-favorite Digimon and Tamers live in yellow. Yellow is a primarily defensive color, easily stalling out games with recovery and great removal. It can further bolster its defense by buffing the DP of its own security Digimon, or go on the offensive by removing DP from the opponent's security Digimon. Yellow's main removal type, DP Reduction, is debatably the best in the game. DP Reduction can be used as both hard and soft removal. Reducing a Digimon's DP all the way down to 0 will delete it, and reducing DP by smaller amounts can make it safe to swing over, or it can discourage the opponent from attacking security. The reason why DP Reduction is so good is because it bypasses deletion prevention. Deleting a Digimon with 0 DP is a game rule, not an effect, so any Digimon that can't be deleted by effects are out of luck. It also entirely sidesteps mechanics like Armor Purge that other colors would have a much harder time with. Yellow also has soft removal in the form of security -1, which can be a very unwelcome surprise for an opponent expecting to win the game during their next turn. This does nothing to change the board state though, so you better have something else on top of it or you'll just end up delaying the inevitable. Security Control, while not a pure yellow deck, still brings all the big guns from yellow. Ample recovery, huge -DP effects, and security -1 for good measure. It's the king of stall and can deck opponents out by wiping their boards each turn and recycling its own cards. Yellow Hybrid is a much more active deck if that's more your thing. It has similar mechanics to Security Control that make it as annoying as possible for the opponent to attack security. It can apply pressure early on with efficient hybrid Digimon and has some big late game threats as well. Purple is thematically the opposite color to yellow, containing demons and fallen angels. This is where many of the villainous Digimon from the anime and manga live. Purple is a tricky color that is heavily based around the trash. It has many ways to play Digimon out of the trash, but has to put them there first. This can be done in many ways, including trashing from the hand, deck, or battle area. A lot of purple Digimon have on-deletion effects that allow even more cards to be trashed, forming a mini chain reaction that can put key pieces into the trash very quickly. Because purple wants their cards in the trash, deleting their Digimon is doing them a favor a lot of the time. Purple Digimon can be notoriously hard to get rid of unless you send them to the bottom of the deck, and even that's not a perfect solution because purple can dig faster than any other color. Purple has a nice mix of offensive and defensive mechanics. Rush lets Digimon, especially those played from the trash, attack right away, and Retaliation heavily dissuades the opponent from attacking. Purple's removal is level-based deletion, the ability to delete a Digimon of a certain level or lower. Retaliation technically counts as removal too, but requires the opponent to cooperate to some extent, so while effective, it's mostly used as a deterrent rather than active removal. Level-based deletion is great for its consistency, especially if you want to delete your own Digimon. However, it's incapable of hitting outside its range, so to speak, because unlike DP, a Digimon's level can't be altered by effects. Minerva Loop is a purple deck that embodies all of the mechanics I just explained and more. It wins by setting up a combo that enables enormous memory gain, which it uses to play out attackers with Rush over and over. In BT11, this deck gets access to Mervamon, a second boss monster that can set up a wide board of Digimon with Retaliation, Blocker, and Rush, making it very scary on both offense and defense. Beelzemon is looking to be very strong when the new advanced starter deck releases. The deck gets a power boost for every 10 cards in the trash, and is the best in the biz at dumping cards to fulfill this objective quickly. Green houses primarily plant and insect Digimon, with some fairies sprinkled in. It's also the only color to include Digimon and Tamers from every main anime series. Green is known for fast and efficient Digivolution, featuring many aggressively costed Digimon and the Digisorption mechanic to speed things along. Green has strong offense similar to Red, with a lot of security +1, plus DP, and piercing, but also packs some very efficient defensive options as well. Green's first removal type is Suspension, which is soft removal, but can easily be turned into hard removal by swinging over the suspended Digimon, or by combining it with Green's second removal type, bottom decking a suspended Digimon. Sending a card to the bottom of the deck removes the possibility of it being played again from the trash or hand, like with deletion or bounce, ensuring it won't be seen again for quite a while. Bloom Hydra is a very strong and very versatile green deck. The combo is a little complex, but the plan is to play out a bunch of small Digimon that can be used to empower the boss monster, ideally multiple times in one turn using a looping combo. It can also exert strong control over the board with suspension and bottom decking effects when needed. Grandis is much simpler and has a game plan similar to Wargreymon X. Build a huge stack and wreck security. It is a very consistent deck due to having fewer combo pieces than similar decks, albeit at the cost of less protection. Black consists mainly of machines and cyborgs, along with non-demonic evil Digimon and virus subspecies. Black is mainly a defensive color, having many strong blockers, often with reboot or even decoy to really ensure nothing can get through. It also has a higher than average number of special or unique mechanics thrown in. For hard removal, Black has play cost based deletion, deleting a Digimon of a certain play cost or less. Black's soft removal is the incredible D-Digivolve, which trashes the top card or cards of an opponent's stack, stopping when there is only one card remaining or if the top card is a level 3 Digimon. As of right now, only one Digimon in the game has protection against D-Digivolve, making it somewhat of a silver bullet. Dark Knightmon is a deck that took many black mechanics and put them all together in the most annoying way possible. Its Digimon replace themselves when deleted, there are multiple ways to D-Digivolve, and one of its tamers can give blocker to all its best pieces. The newly updated Machine Dramon deck in BT11, though not entirely black, definitely shows off the uniqueness of black decks. Machine Dramon takes up to 5 level 5 Digimon from your hand or trash, and puts them underneath it as sources when played. Since level 5 Digimon generally have the best inherited effects, your stack will be very strong and can even digivolve again to add more sources. Finally, we come to white, the 7th color. White is special in that it's not a core color of the game in the traditional sense. It's basically the timeout area where cards aren't allowed to benefit from the support of other colors. White has no support of its own, so the only way white cards can have synergy with other cards is by their names or traits. A lot of white cards are meant to be splashable, but the drawback is that they can't be used as color sources to play off-color options. In addition, most white Digimon can't digivolve or are already level 7, so adding them to your stack isn't really an option either. Despite this, white cards are generally very strong and see play in a lot of decks. For example, I jokingly refer to Analog Youth, a white card, as the best purple tamer in the game because it can trash cards very cheaply. Since white doesn't have a traditional color identity, it has no color-specific mechanics and no removal type. Instead, white has a bunch of unique mechanics that fill in these gaps, but not in a consistent way. There are only 2 white decks in the history of the game, Eosmon and D-Reaper. Both decks contain a card that can be included at more than 4 copies, making them quite unique. Eosmon uses many copies of the level 5 Eosmon card, which can play another Eosmon from the hand when attacking. The deck is centered around having enough search and draw power to constantly play out more Eosmons, theoretically doubling each turn unless dealt with by the opponent. D-Reaper has a slew of unique mechanics in addition to the one previously mentioned, including Digimon with no level, and a special 15,000 DP egg that counts as a Digimon when hatched. This deck uses many copies of Searcher to add as sources under the fancy egg to power big late-game threats. In the meantime, it spits out expendable bodies for cheap and attacks with impunity. A fun deck for sure, but it definitely has very lopsided matchups. Well, that's all the information I promised you. I hope you learned something. Please leave feedback in the comments if you have any, and let me know what topics you would like to see covered in future videos. Bye!